Hi, everybody, and welcome back to K-Sports Sunday. Now to the Red Sox, who finally found the winning combination Saturday against the Twins. Daisuke Matsuzaka would go to the mound to try and find a winning combination this afternoon for the Red Sox, and they would. They won 9-5, back-to-back wins over the Twins for the Red Sox. On his birthday and on Mother's Day, Adrian Gonzalez gets an RBI single to score. Jacoby Ellsbury also adds a solo home run. Great day for the Red Sox bats. The pitching started slow, but picked up towards the end. So now, guys, Daisuke pitching all right, not as well as we've seen him, but the bats finally waking up. Should we still be concerned? Are the Red Sox making the move on the curve? Are they going to start to put some wins together here? What do you guys think? Let's send it over to Josh and the guys on the Back Talk set.
All right, thanks, Max. Well, you look at the Red Sox, honestly, I think that back, not even just a week ago, I think they had a nice sweep of the Angels on the road, and everyone was saying, oh, this team's back. I think Dan Shaughnessy wrote an article in the Globe saying the Red Sox are back into the race. I think they're certainly back in the race, and there's no doubt they're playing much better. For one thing, you have to remember how big of a factor Carl Crawford has been in that factor, because he's been hitting much better lately. I think maybe it's just a change in his mechanics. I'm not sure what has changed it, but
he's on the juice.
He's
Probably.
He's been hitting much better. But to me, I think there's no doubt the pitching has been the key factor here. Daisuke today, he was all right. I mean, I remember he gave up a couple runs early, sort of got it together. That's a key for a pitcher to me, is especially for someone like Daisuke, who clearly mentally is not the best kind of pitcher in mind, not the toughest to handle. For the fact that he was able to, despite the slow start, still get it together and manage to pitch well the rest of the game, I think that's a good sign for the Red Sox in terms of Daisuke. I don't know what you think about this.
Personally, I think the Red Sox main problem is that they're too inconsistent, because oftentimes they sweep a team and then they get swept. And have you seen, although Carl Crawford's bat is starting to rise and he's starting to finally hit the Mendoza mark, which is 200, this Red Sox bats have had so many chances to get RBIs, and oftentimes they just can't get it. I remember against the game they were being 11-2. Early on, they had 4 chances. They had 5 strand runners, and they didn't score a run.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. The Red Sox are extremely inconsistent. Carl Crawford not hitting that high. I mean, yeah, he's really got better, but he's not at the point that we want him to be at. We've got some consistent players like Jacoby Ellsbury. He's pretty consistent. He'll hit in the 300s consistently. Adrian Gonzalez, he got a home run today. He's doing really well. But we've also got Jason Varitek. He's doing awful. He's hitting 130, and we need to get everybody hitting at least 200 at this point. We can't have anybody like Varitek hitting 130. It's awful.
Yeah, we also need a bullpen pitcher, because oftentimes the Red Sox cannot close out games, or in the 8th inning they blow a lead. Bobby James especially, we're pitching him too much.
Well, I don't know if Max wants to chime in and see what he thinks.
Yeah, guys, I think that it all really starts with the bats. A pitcher has a different mentality when they're pitching in a game, a starting pitcher especially, and their team already has run support behind them, rather than a 0-0 game and they're really pitching to keep their team in it. So if the Red Sox can really get these bats started, I think that some of the guys who have struggled early on, like John Lackey or even Daisuke, some of these guys might start to pick it up. Lester's been pretty good. Beckett's been great. Buchholz has been there, but really, as you guys were saying, the bullpen needs to hold it together. Daniel Bard has been pitching much better lately. He's really had some solid outings. Papelbon's starting to get back in his groove. And, the Red Sox really lately have looked like a team that is starting to contend. They have an AL East week coming up here, including the Yankees at the end of it, out in the Bronx. They really need to show what they can do there. It's a huge series. As a Sox fan, I don't want 2 wins. I want the sweep. They really need to show that they're here to play. That little hiccup at the beginning, the 6 losses in a row to start off the season, was just a fluke, and they're really here to come and contend with the best of the best.
Oh, I definitely agree with Max on that. I feel like, now, especially they swept it. I mean, it's not like, the teams will look at it and say, well, the fact is that the Red Sox can't really sweep on the road. Well, they just swept a 4-game series of the Los Angeles Angels, and I feel like that proves to me that they can easily. And the Angels are a pretty good team. But going to back what you were saying about Varitek, I agree that it's not acceptable to hit under the Mendoza line, certainly. But to be fair, he has not been deemed as a terrific hitter now. And in fact, for most of his career, he was deemed as an okay hitter in the prime of his career. But beyond that, hasn't been really deemed a good hitter. And the fact is that you can very much make the argument that he has really kept this pitching staff together. He's helped Beckett a lot. I remember Beckett earlier in the season, he depended on Varitek to do very well. Look how well Beckett's pitched because of that. I mean, you look at, I think a couple of times Lackey started that he pitched very well. Varitek was catching him. I'm not saying that they should start him over Saltalamacchia, but I am saying that, looking at the pitching staff right now, I would rather start Varitek and let Saltalamacchia still groom in. You know what I mean? So I agree that Varitek should be hitting better. 130 is unacceptable for any hitter, but it's not like, we were expecting him to hit 300. For one thing, I'm completely, by the way, as a Red Sox fan, I'm just quite glad that Carl Crawford is finally getting it together. So.
And you guys really made a great point earlier about consistency, and that's been a problem for the Red Sox in the past. To get to that point that people were expecting them to be, that 100-win team, an elite team, you really need to be consistent. You can't win some, lose some. You got to win a lot and lose a few. And the Red Sox really haven't been doing that, and it all starts with the bats. And the core of this Red Sox lineup, they've started to wake up with Egon and Youkilis and Pedroia. As you guys said, Ellsbury, he's been really on fire at the start of this season. Everyone needs to start to get it together. And so you guys, quickly, before we move on, last look at the Red Sox. What do they need to do this week in an AL week against the Yankees, especially at the end of the week? What do they need to do in that series?
Well, I feel like, I agree with you. I think they need the sweep to make the statement that, hey, we're better than you, the Yankees. Early in the season was a complete fluke. The 2-10 start didn't mean anything. It was early in the season. I mean, getting 2 out of 3, I'll take. But I feel like the sweep is necessary to really make that statement to the Yankees. We're the better team, and we deserve to be at the top of the AL East. And I'm still going to say at the end of May, the Red Sox will be on top of the AL East.
Every game, the Red Sox got to jump out to an early lead, and you got to have a bullpen pitcher that can hold the game and keep it in so the Red Sox bats can provide more run support.
We need our inconsistent players to be consistent this week. We need our consistent players to be consistent this week. We need the starters, they need to keep the game close or keep the lead if they get the lead early. And we need the bullpen pitchers not to blow it. Because I was at the game against the Mariners last week. Bobby Jenks, he was awful.
Well, that's a nice way to put it. All right, let's send it back to Max.
All right, thanks, guys. Great convo there. And so switching gears a little bit, it was a dream matchup any fan of boxing would likely pay to see. But in the end, the evening turned out to be more of a nightmare for Shane Mosley when he went up against Manny Pacquiao. YBA's Eric Halperin offers his thoughts on the bout.
Hi, I'm Eric Halperin for YBA Sports, and I love boxing. Last night, the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world performed. It was the eve of Mother's Day, and Manny Pacquiao made his mom proud. After all, he is the holder of championship belts in 8 different divisions. Pacquiao's opponent, 39-year-old Sugar Shane Mosley, a former champion, and 10 years ago, he was one of the best fighters in the world. Everyone besides Mosley's camp thought this was going to be a lopsided fight. Needless to say, Mosley's camp was wrong. Pacquiao dominated for all 12 rounds last night. He knocked down Mosley in the 3rd round and kept the punches coming, not giving Mosley any opportunities. SI.com reports that Pac-Man landed 182 punches to Mosley's 82. Wow. Mosley is credited with knocking down Pacquiao in the 10th round, but really, it was more of a push. Pacquiao hopped right back up and continued to destroy. Last night's main event raises some other questions about how good Manny Pacquiao is, and how good he would be in another era. He has been so dominant of late, and no one has come close to beating him. But what if Pac was placed in a different era? Say, the Ali era. Would he still be so dominant? Yes, he would. He is not only a scary fast puncher, he is a scary fast puncher with extreme power. This combination is unmatched. The names of Roy Jones Jr. was considered the best pound-for-pound fighter in his day, as was Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Robinson, Alexis Arguello, and Oscar De La Hoya. For now, it's looking like Pacquiao will be out of the ring until November for a possible fight against Juan Manuel Marquez, who has given him fits in the past. That would be a fight I would certainly buy. That's all for Pacquiao's dominance. I'm Eric Halperin for YBA. Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
All right, and when we come back, the Bruins are set to play in the Eastern Conference Championship in the NHL. Can they dodge a lightning bolt? We'll examine that coming up next.